Okay, let's start grouping these guys together. Because for animation, we're going to have to group these guys and then we can rig them. So first, let's figure out, we want these pieces to be in, so maybe these pieces to be together. So let's pull all these out. We don't need the hypernubs here. So, okay, good. And we want them to be around the axis of this object here. So we select this cylinder, we press Alt-G, and we call this leg top. And now we put all these guys into there. And now this is the leg top, and we can move it, and it's one piece. Good. Let's respell that there so we don't have so many capitals. Now, here we want, you know what? We probably, no, this will be attached to this leg, yeah. So, we want this to be the axis around, yeah, I want it to be axis around this object. So group it and call it leg lower. And let's pull these guys out of their hypernubs into leg lower, delete the subdivision surfaces. Foot joint also needs to be in the leg lower. And as you notice, we're losing some of our subdivision, so we can just put this guy in a hypernub, and we can put this guy in a hypernub. However, unfortunately, as you see, we got a bit of an issue with the surfaces here, because for some reason there you go, it's just temporary. Just select the edges and it'll refresh the chamfer plugin. So we're good there, we're good there. It's nice and smooth. And this is our foot, so we can group this foot and this foot. It's just, yeah, I'll group this and put these guys in. The reason I do this is because if you just select all of them and press Alt-G, it'll put the axis in the middle, like in the average of all the objects. And we want our axis to be here, and on the foot we want it to be there. So that's why I did it. And now we can apply these yellow materials that we have to here, and it's easy. So leg upper again, and leg lower. And Control drag yellow foot on the material. I'm still not happy with this foot. Select these faces here. Let's just drag them out. Wait, no, we're going to want to select these faces as well. Okay, that's better. Now it has some kind of a bit thicker. Okay. So how do we rig it? Now we're gonna start actually adding bones to this thing. So let's go character, joint tool. Let's go into our side view here, and we're gonna control click, hold the control to make a new joint chain here, here, and just parallel down about here. As you see, they're not really aligned, so let's go to our model tool and our move tool, and let's move these guys across, oops, the top root. Let's move it across to align with our leg. Now here, let's turn on snapping, 2D snapping. Let's get this joint. And let's go, where's our, we want to move the axis, so that way we don't move all the other joints. And we want it to snap to this center here. It's snapping, 2D snapping, enable snap, and 2D snapping and vertex snap. So, oops, there you go. And then we want this joint here to be snapped to that thing. And this one is fine as it is. Now turn off snapping, otherwise you're going to get headaches later on. So we have our joint system in there. Now what we want is we want to set up our IK chain. So let's select all these by holding the top one and shift clicking on the bottom one. And we go character, commands, create IK chain. And now we have this joint to goal. And we can lift this goal up and down and it'll move our joints. Nifty, right? Let's also change its rotation to 0. We don't need it all wonky. And now what we're going to do is we're going to place our leg upper into our joint, into this top joint, and our leg lower into this joint. And now when we move this, we're moving the leg. And the foot, we could add the foot to the last joint, but the problem with that is now when we move this joint, as you see, the foot reorients itself, like it doesn't stay flat. And that's going to be a pain when doing animation. So what I like to do is I like to put the foot into the joint goal. And now when we lift, now when we move the joint goal, if you turn off the axis tool and you move the joint goal, you move the foot with it. So again, it stays flat, so we can place it on a surface. And if we rotate it, the foot will rotate into the position that we want. So let's bring that back to 0. Okay, so that's our foot piece ready there. Now we obviously need 2 legs, because right now we only have 1 leg. So we do also notice if you get this top joint goal, this top root, and you move it, see, the foot sticks to the ground. So we're going to be parenting this root and the cabin together, so we can move the cabin while the foot stays on the ground. As you see here, we got this smoothing error again in here. And as I talked, it's basically just a matter of double clicking on this selection tag and this selection tag. And there you have it. I think maybe, no, it's all in there. Yeah. And there we got, nice. And it's here. I don't know why it's losing it. Maybe it's, there you go. Just double click on them and you get your bevels back and everything's nice. So how do we copy this foot over to the left? Let's group it together under this root. This is a good root, so let's Alt-G and call this foot 2. I always call, when I look front on a character, I always call stuff on the left as foot 1 or arm 1 or whatever, ear 1, eye 1, and the stuff on the right is 2. So this is going to be foot 2, and let's put this joint goal in there as well. Now I can move this thing together. So let's control click and drag this in the model tool over to the other side. Now we have a second foot, but we need to mirror it because right now we don't have the details there on the inside. We do that pretty simply. We select this foot 2.1. We go to the axis tool. Here we select scale from the drop down menu and we go X and we go -1. On some occasions it doesn't work, so you have to plug in. You have to turn the axis tool off and plug in back to -1 to now normal 1. And there you go, we have it flipped. So now we can move it across and it's aligned and we now have 2 legs here. And we can select both of these and we can move them together. But what we're going to do now is we're going to put this cabin, we're going to put it into a null. And we're going to call this cabin, cabin. And we're going to change our our object here to a circle. Let's make it bigger and change the orientation to maybe, there you go, X, Z, Y is good. And we're going to put these 2 joints go to axis tool and make sure all these are set to 1. Because if you don't, you can run into lots of problems later down the road. Also a good idea to rotate these guys, wait. Yeah, right, this to 0. And this guy also to 0. So make sure all your axes are aligned in the 0 direction. So what we can do now is we can simply get these two roots and we can put them inside the cabin. Now when we grab this null here, just turn off the nulls, we can now move them up and down and we can rotate it. And then we can grab each of the foots, joint toggle here, and animate the foot going up and down. I really don't know what's happening with these chamfer makers. They seem to just... I think maybe it's my recording software that's messing with them. Or maybe when I change the axis, it loses it. But you can always make them editable once you're happy with the result, if it's bugging you, if you have a problem with render time. Anyway, this approach that I just showed you is good. I mean, putting the roots in, but I prefer to keep them outside the null. So what I like to do is I move these guys back to wherever they were. With the foot 2 and the foot 1 here. Let's move the cabin to the top of the hierarchy. And what I like to do is I like to make some nulls. So for example, this is going to be shoulder 1. So let's put this into let's call this foot 1, by the way. And there's this command called reset PSR. It's in Shift F12, and here you go, reset PSR. I have it mapped to tilde-x, and you go tilde-x, and then you take it back out and you put it into the cabin. And then you control click and drag it, and you call it shoulder 2. And you put it inside the root of foot 2, shoulder 2, and you tilde-x and it'll be there. You bring it out, and now you can, let's go, this is root 1, this is root 2, this is joint, this is foot 1, and this is foot 2, and actually this is probably should be called leg 1 and leg 2. Okay, so, and we want these roots to follow these shoulder positions. So we go right click, character tag, and it's kind of off screen here because it's my recording software, but you want the constraint tag. And you go PSR, it's position size rotation, and then here you can select position scale rotation. As you can see, you have position and rotation ticked. So we get our shoulder 1 and we drag it in here, and as you can see, it kind of flipped that backwards. So we can do offset and maintain original. So let's undo this and press maintain original, and then we can put in shoulder 1. Nope, that doesn't work. I know why that's a problem there. Let's delete this tag. We forgot to add the leg poles. So we got our roots, we get our IK chains, we get both our IK chains, we can control, where is it? Root 1 and root 2, control click on this guy, and let's go add poles. Totally wrong position for the poles, but we can move them manually now. So the poles are basically what orient which direction the foot AMC. As you can see, we move it back and it'll be correctly positioned. So let's select both these two joint poles. Where are they? Joint pole, and move them back. As you can see, now they're in the right position. And these joint poles, really, they should be both under the cabin, because we want to move, when the cabin moves, we want the direction of these joint poles to also move. So now that we've got that set, let's get our constraint again. Actually, we don't even, I think our problem also, we were taking the rotation when we really don't need it. We need to just the position here. So, no, we do need the rotation. Yeah, we need the rotation. So position, PSR, and let's plug in root 1 and shoulder 1. Kind of flips the rotation, but that's okay. And let's add a PSR to root 2. Add constraint and PSR. And let's add our shoulder 2. Okay, good. And now when we get our cabin null and we move it, we get our squatting robot. So let's undo this, and when we rotate it, we get to move our legs as well. So yeah, it's pretty neat, right? Again, we're having this problem with these chamfer makers. I wonder if we hit render if it... Yeah, when you hit render, it's fine. So it's just a viewport issue that sometimes it forgets to chamfer the legs. So if you're seeing these rounded things, it's not an issue. Just double click on it. You can go view, scroll to first active, which I have from ~1, and just double click on all the chamfers here and they'll balance out. Really not sure why they're... Yeah. Anyway, so there we have it. We have our little rig. Maybe we should get some for the feet. We need to adjust the feet a bit here. Let's get our feet. Foot 1, foot 2, foot 2, and foot 1. We want them both to be on the ground level. Right now they're not on the ground level. So we want to put them both in nulls. So let's call this foot 1, 0, and foot 2, 0. Now let's LG this one and LG this one and call this foot 1 and call this foot 2. And now we select both of them. We go to axis tool, which means we just move the axis, we don't move the actual foot, and move them down to the 0 coordinates. So to the ground plane. In the model tool, we can also just go and 0. So and turn off the axis tool, and now move them together, the feet move. So these 2 feet, let's go out to our object, circle, let's make them nice and big, change it to, there we go, XZ, and now we have our 2 feet controllers, which we can just click on and we select the foot. Nifty, right? Okay, so we got that going. And we can select this guy and we can rotate him around. Oh yeah, and the last thing I want to add to this rig before we get to animating him is I want this controller is going to be moving him left and right, and then we want another controller. Actually, we also want this null, we want it to be zeroed out, we want it to be rotated. So let's go to axis and let's change this to 0. Should make this 0 as well. Oh, okay. Well, that works too. Makes it easy to select. Just click on the. If you can't select something, it's probably because you have axis tool enabled and you can't click on it. If you disable that, you can select it. So okay, this will be the bobbing null. This null will be the null that moves the guy up and down. It's a local adjustment null. So cabin, let's call this, let's make small letters, cabin _ local. And then we can group this guy again because we want it to be in the same place and call this cabin global. And this guy, we're going to make him a hexagon. We're going to make him bigger. And we're going to make him, there we go, horizontal, bigger. Let's give him basic, turn it on, let's make it orange. I like that to be orange, and let's get this guy, and let's turn this on, and let's make him, I don't know, yellow. And these guys I like to make left and right, I like to separate them, I like to make them pink and blue. It's just my personal preference. But once again, you can make them any color you want. So there it is, it's our rig. Now the reason I put this inside is because now when we have a global move, for example this thing, I can move it, forward and back and stuff. And then this guy is just, I can add like small movements like I can add little bobbing so as he walks. So it's easier to animate and adjust it because I won't have to like adjust the global position when moving keyframes, I can just adjust a small local variation. And then if I need to adjust its path, but I still keep it bobbing, I can just adjust this guy. So yeah, that's useful for nesting. So here it is, our robot. Next step, we'll